Hello guys! I've been thinking, what if Minecraft got a Farmer and Baker's update? What would happen? Well, I have a few ideas on if there were an update like that, what would be added. A special crafting thing that's specifically for the update. You can use that very specific crafting table to make kebabs, soups, and pies. Essentially what you would be able to do is, I imagine that on the interface for this particular crafting table is there would be 4 slots all next to each other and then another slot underneath them all. The underneath slot is to...
You still don't want to play RL?
Sorry about that. Zeke was asking me about RL Craft, which is pretty interesting, then I don't really care. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. That bottom part would distinguish what type of food you are making. Is it a pie? Is it a soup? Or is it a kebab? With a kebab, you would put a stick there. Soup, you would put a bowl. Oh, excuse me. And a pie, you would get essentially what I would view as a new item. Oh, excuse me again. A pie crust. This pie crust would be essentially a new item in the game. Just ignore the birds. They're over there. Anyway, this new item, the pie crust, would change quite a lot. Also, because everything that's food has sort of changed, the whole thing of the crafting table being able to cook food will no longer be the case. If you decide, instead of the main 3 items, you instead put coal there, and different meats, vegetables, and things like that. Instead, you would get all those 4 items they've decided to put there, cooked. Everything else requires a campfire. Sure, this is getting a little extreme, but to be honest, it's an idea of mine. It's not entirely there. It's not going to be it's a possibility for this to be added, but it's not 100%. Essentially, what would happen is no longer will the furnace be the thing cooking stuff. If you are cooking food, that suddenly moves to the new crafting table. I imagine that in this interface, there's the part I already described, and then there's an arrow next to all of those, then a slot of 4 in a 2x2 square. So it's 4, it's 2x2, and it puts down your items there once they're done being put together. If there's a coal or a charcoal thing put underneath, it will cook the items. And it can cook up to 4 different items at once. You can also put the soups there so they are not cold soup. And soups, like usual, will be unable to stack up because it's soup. Try holding soup, several bowls of soup, in one hand. It's going to be difficult, and it's going to be annoying. An interesting thing, though, is something I mentioned earlier, kebabs. In the more current game, it is totally possible to make things like, you're able to cook things on top of a fireplace. kebabs would have to be cooked there. And if you put any kind of meat there, you would get jerky instead of the normal items if you cooked it in the new crafting table. That would certainly be a new way to play the game. However, I also mentioned that it's not just a baker's update for this little idea, but it's also a farmer's update. Also adding some brand new, those birds are getting annoying, but some brand new items that are very specific for the farmer's part of the mod, or the update, if you so please, and I kind of want this to be an update. Another thing, a creature more specifically, can be added into the game. They can spawn anywhere plants can easily grow. This creature is the rat. And the rat is a pesky little bugger that is essentially supposed to ruin your food. They come in groups, they steal your food, and whatever they don't steal, they poison. They ruin everything. You do not want rats. They will be nothing more than a real pest. You can kill them, but all you'll really get is their meat, so rat meat, which if uncooked will definitely poison you and will definitely put you into hunger mode, but of course it can be cooked like most meats. But you also have the chance of getting their tail, which I don't know what the tail would do. It's just a thing, I guess. But you have a chance of getting the tail. It's a lower chance. But rats are annoying. They don't really have much health. I imagine their health would be equal or less than a rabbit's. So they're pretty easy to deal with, except when they're not. I imagine that rats can bite. Of course, rats are also going to be scared of cats. And possibly with raw rat meat, or mice meat, if that's the path Mojang would want to go instead. Essentially, what would happen is you'd be able to tame cats with that same item, with that same meat, and that now tamed cat will go after rats / mice / rabbits, which will all try and steal your food. Rats being the most annoying, rabbits being the least annoying. There's also the possibility of gaining more grains. In the real world, we have plenty of grains. We have rye, we have wheat, we have corn. We have a good assortment of them. Ooh, excuse me. Ooh, excuse me again. What if we added more wheat? That more wheat, those different kinds of wheat, could make different kinds of bread. Like I said, now in order to make food, you need a special crafting table that's not connected to the original. These new greens can be put into different, essentially in that new crafting table, if you put together the correct ingredients, you can get different kinds of pastries. It also may be completely possible to make desserts and things. You can make different kinds of cakes, cookies, possibly even candy, and possibly we can add some more usage to honey. Yeah, don't think I'm forgetting about that thing that exists. Bees and honey are interesting. You might be able in the game with this little update be able to actually have bees farm. A bee farm. Where you wouldn't have to actually destroy the hive or whatever you have to do in order to get the honey. you have to do is collect the honey and then use the honey. Maybe you can make honey smothered items, possibly even make caramel. Sugar is already in the game, and so you can definitely use both honey and sugar to make a variety of pastries in the game. Possibly we could add more things, like possibly have vanilla beans, as we already have cocoa beans, which make the chocolate cookies. Anyway, another thing that could totally be added in this little update is more kinds of trees. More specifically, fruit trees. We could also add new vegetables in the game that have their own special plants. Some of them may actually revolve around some special rules. Rhubarb, specifically, a very interesting plant, is, I don't remember if this is true or not, but it's something I found online, so I'm gonna say it. According to what I found online, it said that rhubarb, when put in the complete dark, excluding a small little light from a candle, will grow so fast you can literally hear it grow. I don't know if that's true or not, but what if rhubarb is another item you can add into that can be added into the game as another vegetable? And when you get crops, the crops that aren't root crops, instead of, well, sometimes being a little bugger and just having nothing left, instead you would still be left with a few bits of the grain, and it could be harvested several times until you're finally completely out of how many times you can successfully harvest it. Also, we might want to add, we already have sunflowers in the game. That is a very interesting part of the game, but we also don't have sunflower seeds. What if whenever you had sunflowers at random times throughout the, I guess, day, I don't know, at random or within a very particular amount of time, the sunflower seeds will be harvestable from sunflowers. Of course, birds will go nuts over these seeds, so you gotta be quick. It's another seed item, so it may be possible to cook them and get roasted sunflower seeds. Also, something I have yet to mention, salt. In the current game, salt is non-existent. Salt is kind of the opposite of sugar. They're both white in color for the most part. Of course, we got Himalayan salt and brown sugar, which I doubt will be added into the game. But there's a chance. There's always a chance for everything. Unless Mojang has specifically said, no, we are not adding this. Like they've said to guns in the game. Like they've said to vomiting and other bodily fluids. And sharks. That one is random, but it's sharks. They also won't be adding those guys. Anyway, salt would be an interesting thing. It would be undrinkable. Which makes sense, because in the real world, you cannot drink salt water without possibly damaging yourself. Ocean water will get you salt water, while fresh water will not. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me again. Essentially, what can happen is within the game, you would be able to use salt. Possibly that could be used instead for making jerky. I've also haven't gone to another part of my idea, rot and mold. this could be another problem in the game to make it a little more challenging. Rot and mold make foods unedible, and they may need a special container to stay fresh. I'm not sure if canning would be part of this update, but it's an idea nonetheless. The possibility of, well, having fruits and vegetables that can go bad, it's a real idea. Having mold and rot in the game may be a problematic point for many farmers within the game. Not only that, I've already discussed the rats, mice, and rabbits problem, with them now being actual pests within the game, stealing your food. But like I said, rot and mold all of a sudden become a thing. Some things can mold, other things can rot. And if something rots or molds, it can no longer be edible by the player without poisoning the player, or possibly putting them into hunger, which I doubt it will make them hungry. I mean, you literally just ate a rotten apple. Ew. Another part of this is probably a new way of getting apples and other fruits. I believe earlier I said something about new trees. And what I mean by this are things like apple, orange, lemon, lime, and other kinds of trees. Possibly even making it so vines are in the game. We already have red berries in the game, so we could also have other berries that cause annoyance when trying to get them. Red berries, when you get too close, can prick you. Maybe within the game, you can also find things like blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and other kinds of berries, possibly even strawberries. Blueberries and strawberries will be safe to pick, while blackberries will cause a prick to you if you decide to harvest them, and raspberries most likely will simply be ignored because we already have red berries. However, they could totally be added as well. I'm somewhat getting to the end of this video, but I will continue talking about this most likely in my next video. See you then, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't forget the next video. Or you could just decide, I'll look for it later. Or maybe by that time the second video has been created and posted, so you can pay attention to that too. So, you do what you want. Bye!